Good morning, children. Today we are going to learn the chapter 100 Years of Indian Cinema. Cinema making began in India more than 100 years ago. At first, they were silent pictures, but later talkies were introduced. Through this 100 years journey, Indian cinema has several changes and advancements. Read ahead to know about the major changes that have taken place. Watching movie is a fun time activity for all of us. We sit around the television munching chips or stare with mouths wide open as our favorite batsman sneaks in a crucial run and wins the match for his team. All this would not have been possible barely 100 years ago, for the first film in India was made only in 1913. It was at that time that film director Dada Sahab Phalke made the ever first film in India titled Raja Harishchandra. It was screened for public on 3rd May 1913 at the Coronation Cinema in Mumbai. It is said that his inspiration for making the films came from an English movie, The Life of Passion of Christ, which had inspired him to make films on our gods and goddesses. This film differed from the ones we see today in significant way. The actors could only mime their parts as sound had not been introduced into movie making. 3 other films that survived the era of the silent movies are Indo-German productions. One of them is The Light of Asia. The film was shot in Bodh Gaya, the site of the enlightenment of Lord Buddha. It is about 3 foreigners touring India who make stopover at Bombay, Varanasi and Delhi. On their way to Bodh Gaya, where an old man narrates to them the life of the Buddha. The film, made with help of the man Maharaja of Jaipur, was screened by Royal Command at Windsor Castle, April 27, 1926. The era of silent movie was soon to give way to first talkies, where actors spoke out their parts. These films changed the face of Indian cinema. Besides good looks, they now had to speak in commanding voice and even be skillful singers and dancers. The first film of this kind, Alam Ara, was produced by Ardeshir Irani. Indeed, so popular was the talkie film that soon producers began making similar films in Bengali, Telugu and Tamil. Also, the stories chosen for filming were not always about gods and goddesses, but also about the holy men. One of the popular choices of the 30s decade in Indian cinema was the film Sant Tukaram. The film was notable for a few unique inclusions. Its lead role was played by an actor, Vishnu Pant Pagnis. He was a stage actor who excelled in performing in female roles, as there were no women available at the time to work as actresses. Instead of songs, the actor sang bhajans or religious compositions written by Tukaram and narrated the tale of how Shivaji, the great Maratha warrior, had visited the saint on hearing about his holiness and his simple ways of living. When the Second World War broke out, Indian cinema felt its effect in a different way. Though there were no films screened and produced on the action of the battlefield, yet the themes of Indian cinema had changed from religious style to that of the ordinary lives of the Indians. One such epic production was Kismet, starring the famed actor Ashok Kumar. He is an anti-hero who earns fame and attention due to his wrongdoings. Soon the cinema industry began to see a fresh spurt of directorial talent blossom forth, and touring giants like V. Shantaram, Vimal Roy and Mehboob Khan were making epic productions. At the same time, The film industry in South India was making memorable films in Tamil, Telugu, and Kannada. It was also a period when Indian film music saw dramatic changes. The trend towards producing films on newer themes and using the services of great music directors flourished further into the 50s decade. It ushered in the era of great music composers and the playback singers. The name of music composers like V. Shantaram, Sri Ramchandra, Salil Chaudhary, Naushad, and S.D. Burman became household names as their compositions for films were imitated by filmgoers and sung by amateur singers all over the country. Each of these directors had their unique style, and many a time the songs they had composed surpassed the film in popularity. The numbers were sung at colleges fest and bought up as gramophone records and LP. The 50s decades had always been hailed as the golden period of Indian cinema. It saw the arrival of some of the greatest actors of the silver screen, who are now regarded as legends. Three of them had started together in classic movie of the 50s decades. Andaz. The film scored brownie points with its audience because of the lyrics in it. These were sung by playback singers Mukesh and Lata Mangeshkar, who went on to being crowned Nightingale of India for her melodious voice. Another duo who earned fame and fan following during that time was the duo Raj Kapoor and Nargis, who often starred together in production, such as Ah and Barsat, both directed by Raj Kapoor. The other film that continued to endure as immortals of the signed world are a series of productions by Raj Kapoor, notably Avara and Shri 420. But the decade-defining film of the time was the production Pyasa. It was a film that is classified today as a classic on all accounts. The film was lauded for its superb photography and greatest compositions of lyricist Sahir Ludhianvi and a tragic storyline where the writer brought out the shallowness of a money-seeking world. A story retold and then immortalized saw the production of the film Mughal-e-Azam, which was about the Mughal Emperor Akbar's son Salim. The film received a sensational reception due to its color shots, spectacular dance scenes, and overall grandeur of its setting, representing a royal era. In this film, there came to be for a love for the motherland. This was the limelight theme of the film, Mother India, which combined love for the mother with that of the country, deftly weaving the two ideas into a single concept. During the 60s, the popular mass entertainment film had been a lull. Instead, it marked the rise of another genre of filmmaking known as the art film. These films did not enjoy great draws at cinema hall because their storylines were not related to popular culture, but the film industry abroad, especially the art films, won accolades at international film festivals. A new range of film directors began to emerge, such as Adur Gopal Krishnan, Ritvik Ghatak, Arvindam Satyajit Ray, Shyam Benegal, and Saji and Karun. Their stories dwelt on heart-hitting facts of repression, cruelty, social discrimination, among others, and were far removed from the song and the dance entertainment that was popular with the masses. The art film era also saw the emergence of women as film directors, such as Aparna Singh, whose movies 26 Chaurangi Lane detailed the plight of the Anglo-Indians. The last 2 decades of Indian cinema have seen growth in leap and bounds. Themes have become more complex, while settings now include international locations. The heroine is now an educated young woman with westernized thought who makes her choices confidently. When the story is set closer home, she is no longer behind the scene but comes to the fore to wield the gun or stop the goons and lead from the front. The viewerships too for Indian cinema has seen a global trend, with movies being released in London and New York with as much fanfare as in India. Actors are busier than ever because not only do they work for their Indian directors but also take up roles in films abroad. Today, we can see movies of various kinds with new editions and novel themes that make science viewing both an art and a pleasure. Thus, the new wave of films knows no bounds and represents an important part of our cultural heritage in India and abroad. The journey of a century has had its peaks and slides but left a continuity that is widely popular worldwide.